So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is... wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host, Phil Smith, aka Phil the Filipino. And joining me as always is your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And Eric, we are here with the May edition of The Game Room, Where It Happens. And what a ride to get here. Honestly, this is definitely not a game that I thought would pop up on this list. If you want to know a little bit more about Eric's history with the Fallout franchise, make sure you go check out an older episode of The Game Room with Fallout 3 with friend of the show, Trey, who very recently joined us on What Did I Miss? They went into a deep dive on that. But Eric, I mean, given the success, the overwhelming success of the show, we were actually talking about that in our Patreon pre-show. So if you'd like to hear our thoughts about the show, make sure you sign up for our Patreon. Eric will tell you a little bit about that at the end of the episode. But because of the immense popularity and the new people that are being introduced to this very lore-heavy and beloved franchise, we're going to dive into Fallout 76, which is something, not an episode I thought we would ever happen here, and never a game that I thought I was going to dive into either. So excited to talk about our experience with the game as well as the franchise with not only yourself, but our returning guest and consistent friend of the show here on the podcast.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to make it fun is because we've been actively playing this game together. And obviously, with our guest, the two of you are actively streaming. So in the gaming sphere, it just kind of made sense to put it all together, promote that, but also discuss the game that we've been having quite a bit of a blast with. And as you mentioned, has had a resurgence with the popularity of the Fallout TV show. So before we get too far into it, Jordan, are you ready to talk a little bit about Fallout 76 and jump into what you guys are doing over on Twitch?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, especially because Phil has been putting off Fallout for a while, so I'm glad that we got to bring him in there. But I'm also excited to talk about our Twitch journey here. Going to be a pretty good time for us.
Whoa!
Twitch has been an experience for those of you that have gotten to jump into streams. Something goes wrong every time, whether it be sharing the screen or cropping or
we
all
are
these
experts.
things. All these things. We are just so good at
Phil
twitching.
not knowing how to crop for a solid 20 minutes was a experience.
I couldn't. Okay, it was more like 3 to 5 minutes, but
I'm telling you, it felt like forever. I had enough time to make an account that I said I'd never make just so I could comment and bitch about the cropping.
You had the time to hit continue with Google.
No, dude. I had to do like several verifications. Then I tried to just verify with my email, and it said I couldn't leave a comment until I did my phone.
Oh yeah,
it was a whole
I have it
thing.
set so that anybody with an account can't comment for the sake of our of the
that
discussion.
makes sense why I had like 20 hoops to go through.
Yeah, but Jordan, talk about a little bit about how Twitch has been going so far. We've played a different game every single time, and it's been a lot of fun. And then most recently, Plank. So, talk about how much fun that has been.
We're playing Raft to correct that. But no, I think that's been a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, as well in that same stream where we struggled to crop a video, we also struggled to build our raft. But I think like that was a good introduction for us to like get to know the game, because it's a game that we've been wanting to play for a while. And I think this the Twitch channel has also just helped us like dive into games that we haven't yet like introduced into our like gaming library. So like Walking Dead is something that we've been trying to put off, but now we've gotten to it. So it's cool to like kind of like live stream it. And then I feel like we also have the pressure of a live audience, so we kind of do a lot better, especially we kind of do a lot better, especially during like Overcooked, where we actually did 3 stars in every.
We were cooking in Overcooked.
We were cooking, and then we obviously did try to build a raft the week after. So I mean, I guess that's where we fall down from there.
You know, Eric, I actually meant to send this video to you. I sent it to Jordan and Phil and Joyanne. I saw some people, Filipino people specifically, playing Overcooked, where it was 4 people, the 4 players in the kitchen, and one person was the actual kitchen manager pointing stuff out. So there was a 5th person telling everybody where to go. I feel like you would thrive as the 5th person for Overcooked.
I would probably do really well if you guys fucking listened. That would be...
Well, you got to be more clear with your instructions, so I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
Some
I
of
don't
us
know.
speak different languages. It's like a true kitchen. Some of us are Hispanic, some of us are Filipino.
I feel like I would just go straight Gordon Ramsay and just, it's raw.
He just starts verbally abusing us. He's actually like screaming like profanities
Come
at our
on, you
face.
donut. So good, dude.
I think specifically Joyanne would get the brunt of that, so maybe it's
Gosh.
best that we don't do
We
that.
leave Eric
but
out for a little bit.
Probably not, but I think it's interesting how you guys are just getting into all of these games, and in the middle of all of that, we then jump into Fallout 76. So really excited to kind of talk a little bit about our experience with the game. And Phil, I don't know how much you had prepared to talk about the history of it, but I think it's been pretty noted by the gaming community how it all went down. This game, man, rough launch. To see this resurgence is for this and for Fallout 4, very surprising in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, Fallout 76 came out in 2018, and of course was developed by Bethesda and published by Bethesda as well. It's an installment in the Fallout series and a prequel to previous entries set in the year 2102. Players control a resident of Vault 76 who must venture out into the dilapidated open world known as Appalachia in order to recolonize the region and uncover a mysterious plague that has killed off its inhabitants. The big thing about Fallout 76, it is fully multiplayer. You can play with your friends, and it is also an open world in which there are other players walking around, doing their own thing, building their camps, completing missions, side quests, all of that. And yeah, like you said, Eric, the launch for this probably as bad as anybody could, as it could possibly have gone for, especially a developer like Bethesda, who has such a high reputation. The two of you are huge fans of all, multiple entries of their franchises, and to see this game come out and it lack everything that people love about Fallout was like, what in the world are they doing? So Jordan, I'm going to throw this to you first. Did you play Fallout 76 when it initially came out in 2018?
I will say when it first came out, I had the excitement about Fallout 76, but it also was one of those where it like immediately came out after Fallout 4 had announced. So I think I was just riding that high of like really enjoying Fallout 4. And then one of my friends actually got into Fallout 76 and then started telling me about how it's literally just PvP. So I didn't really notice that it was like there was no NPCs, there was no missions, which I like that aspect about Fallout, so I kind of avoided that because as much as I want to get the full Vault Dweller experience and be by myself, I do want to have the experience of running into characters that aren't controlled by other people.
Yeah, Eric, and this was a time in the gaming landscape where games such as Anthem were coming out. Destiny was kind of trying to find its way. What was the game where it was like 4-on-1, where 4 people were a hunter and then there was one monster? I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was a Valve title, if I remember correctly.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's gonna bother me. We'll remember it later.
Evolve?
And then Evolve, yeah. So this is a time where like studios were pivoting to these multiplayer experiences, but then not filling the worlds with anything interesting to do. And that's what happened. And that's why 6 years later, we're now talking about a game that is in a playable space. So Eric, I can't remember, like I think you dove into Fallout 4 but never finished it. When 76 came out, bringing us back to that time, was it something that you were interested in? Because you know that I wasn't going to play this back in 2018 when it came out. So did you have any interest in jumping in?
A little bit, but it was more for the nostalgia purpose of what I still loved about Fallout, because Fallout 3 is one of my like all-time favorite games. I love that game very much. It was very, in my formative gaming years, a very important game. When Fallout 4 came out, though, I didn't finish it because it just wasn't as compelling or interesting. There were elements of the game that didn't quite work, especially around like the base building and like maintaining that. Felt like it became a chore. And as a single player experience around that time, Phil, you know this, I just wasn't interested in really playing single player games unless they were like can't miss games. So that's kind of what ended up happening. Fallout 76 comes out and it's a multiplayer game. And who do I play multiplayer games with? You. So if you're not going to play it, again, this isn't 2024 Helldivers, Eric, where I'm just jumping into public lobbies. This is definitely at a different time in my life where if I had the time, we were playing something else together.
We're playing Titanfall and Fallout and Fortnite.
Yeah.
The early days of Fortnite. Yeah.
You know, so it's unfortunate. And then, despite the interest, I still think if the interest was there and the game had enough popularity, I would have checked it out. But then you hear about the launch and that it's basically bland, it's empty, it's just kind of there, and you're just not interested to jump into that world. And honestly, Phil, I knew it was being kept up with, but this many enhancements, like that the game's basically completely different, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that until we had jumped into it and I had heard about people playing this game again after the show.
That is one of the beauties of a game that is constantly online. There are obviously a lot of downfalls with that, specifically when you're talking about microtransactions, which Fallout 76 does have. And Jordan and I have already spent money in this game, just to kind of get that out of the way. But that's the beauty of how games do work now, is that it does give you the opportunity to update a game over time. We've seen that obviously with Destiny is a really good example of that. A game that is there. What's the most like? Cyberpunk 2077. Right there. Even though it's obviously a totally different experience than this, but a game can have a troubled launch, and honestly, one of the worst launches probably in Bethesda's history, especially given their track record. The fact that they have been able to stay at it. No Man's Sky, another game that has now come a total 180 from where it once was. So that's great. And it would also just be nice for developers to put out games that work upon launch and games that are what we expect of them. But that's unfortunately where we are now. So Jordan, we've spent probably a good, I would say, almost approaching a month in 76. So I'm going to ask both you and Eric this as far as the world goes. Appalachia, I think, is a really cool area to explore. We haven't even dove into Atlantic City, which was an update that came out later, so we haven't even explored that. So comparatively speaking to Boston, to Las Vegas, and to, I can't remember where Fallout 4 was. You guys would have to remind me, but comparatively speaking, world-wise, as far as the environments, how does it compare to the other Fallout games? How are you enjoying or not enjoying Appalachia?
I really like Appalachia, and I think what really sets it apart, and this is just for all the Fallout games, is the wastelands for each game is so different, and it's got these unique aspects to it that really make them apart from the other Fallout games. I think Fallout 4 had a little bit more of the city life. I think Fallout 4 was in Boston actually, but the New Vegas one is in Las Vegas and Nevada, where it's more desert and then this is West Virginia, as the song is constantly playing in our ear in the radio, but you see more of the West Virginia parks and all the different mountain ranges. So it's really interesting. I think all the characters you meet too are really interesting too. And then something that I don't know if Eric's seen it, but Phil and I have seen it in the game, is that they have a university which is there that's based, it's called the Vault-Tec University, and that's a good hint to how West Virginia in general has all the northern Ivy League universities, I believe. So I think that was a really cool touch to it.
Yeah, West Virginia is pretty cool. Washington, D.C. is where Fallout 3 took place.
DC,
I think Jordan is right
yeah.
About Boston for Fallout 4. But the cool thing is that Fallout has always had those extra DLCs of other areas, Pittsburgh, I know was a big one back in the day. So there's stuff like that they can always do, and I think is exciting for the future. I think this is just a good place that they picked, and I think it has enough elements, historical elements too, that make it a fun playthrough. I really feel like this game has the ability, Fallout as a series in general, to pick anywhere in the country. and make it interesting when they add that post-apocalyptic flair to it. So I think that alone kind of gives it the ability to scatter across the US. Although I will say a Hawaii-based Fallout game would be a little weird. Maybe that's the only one that I can think of. Maybe, I don't know.
I'd like it. I think it does remind me a little bit too much of like Dead Island, though, or like something like that. So
I was about to
don't
say
think,
it'd be very
Yeah.
Dead Island like. Imagine
What about,
Florida.
like a swampy Fallout. I would imagine like a radiated alligator, like a huge just alligator or something like that. Swamp. We have cryptids down here. I think that would work. Just a giant flamingo. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Those things work. But yeah, they could do Georgia easily. Stuff like that.
Jacksonville.
Like, Jacksonville. Again, largest city in the world, right?
Mass. Yeah. Largest county. I think I would like to see them go to other countries too. We're getting ahead of ourselves in terms of like the future of the game, but like imagine like a France, or London, Paris, something along those lines. I think that would be really cool. And then heading east, go into somewhere in Japan, something along those lines. But yeah, the world has been cool. I really think Appalachia is, just because like you guys really enjoy kind of the desert areas, or at least kind of the more wastelandy areas. I've really enjoyed the seeing just like all the lush greenery in Appalachia, and I think that was I think they made a good choice as far as switching it up for 76. Do you have something you want to add, Jordan?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. You unmuted, so I was going to give you the floor, but never mind. But yeah, Eric, I do want to ask you this part. So again, you touched on it just a little bit, because 76 does have the base building element in the game. And earlier this year, we covered a game that also has a base building element in Pal World. Haven't touched it in months, and probably don't have any intention. All three of us don't have any intention going back to it. So you haven't really gotten into like building a camp, and Jordan has done that way more than we have. I've built like a base structure in my area. I don't think you really got into that at any point quite yet. But does the base building in Fallout 76, because it is a world and a franchise that you do enjoy and you're more familiar with as opposed to Power World, when you do go back and play 76, is that something you want to explore a little bit more as far as the base building and upgrading that in any way?
Not really, and I think it doesn't help that this goes against the argument that like I don't necessarily hate these type of games, because I did enjoy Pal World, and I can at least understand in Pal World what the point of it was. But I think with Fallout, there's so much stuff to do and so many things to be able to leverage in that game. Maybe I just don't see the point of building a camp, and it's something I just am not interested in. Other than, oh, cool, look at this. And, like, as an aesthetic thing, that's fine. But, like, I have been just fine doing stuff and stashing it and going to workshops and benches and being able to do things like that. Like, if there are perks only in a camp, I guess I just haven't noticed that those perks are there and that I really need to be doing that. It hasn't really hampered my experience. And maybe that's because I am playing with friends. If it was just me, maybe it would be a little bit different. Maybe I'd be more invested. But I just haven't felt like it enhances or kind of hampers my gameplay. And because of that, that just kind of devalues the importance of doing it in my eyes.
And he makes a good point too, Jordan, because you can go to other people's camps, or there are pre-made camps all over the world. So, all over the map, I should say. So, if you don't necessarily want to dive into that, you don't have to, because there is plenty to do in terms of the main quest, the side quest, the daily quest, the monthly quest, all that stuff, and then joining events. You can join an event with another community member, which I want to touch on the community here in just a moment. But, I totally get that, Jordan, especially, again, like, he's not as invested as upgrading his camp like you have been. So, like, talk about just the base building in general, because that is something, dating all the way back to, like, Animal Crossing, which was, like, the first game we ever played together, you and I. Like, you've always been very invested in the upgrading and the kind of the visual aesthetic of, like, whether it be a base building or a neighborhood or anything like that.
Yeah, I've grown up liking, like, these type of sim games, so I obviously liked PAL for, like, building. I liked Animal Crossing. I dived I dove right into like Lego Fortnite and started building through there.
Oh yeah, yeah, another one that's
another one
RIP.
that we aren't going to be touching anytime
not
soon.
going back
but
to.
I think like what I like about the base building, which is strange that I like it so much in 76, but I didn't really like it that much in Fallout 4 because it just felt pointless in Fallout 4 because you're doing so much already. But I guess that contradicts like what I feel about 76, because the reason I like it so much in 76 is because I kind of see it as like my base, and I feel like that's like my safe area, so I can like fast travel to it and then I can save there, or like I'll respawn there at all times, and then I just keep my stuff there because like that's a huge thing, is like you get over encumbered very easily, especially with the events and the missions that you're doing. You're constantly looting, so you can get those stash boxes that you can access them like in any stash box across the world at other people's camps. So I like utilizing that. And then to go on like the perks, which like it only really comes up if you do really build up your perks a lot, but there is a perk where you like heal gradually at your camp. So like I think that's a nice plus if you do like build up your camp. But I do also like the aesthetic and getting to see other people's camps. Using other people's camps as a fast travel point too is like the go-to for me, because then it's like I can take a mission far away because someone's built there. But I just always enjoy like getting to show off the things I collect.
I love how you say it's a safe space, but like every time I go to your base, I'm attacked by mongrels and scorchers, and then my base is next to the super mutants because that's the only place I could do it next to you guys. Like,
I moved mine.
I was going to say, no, that's definitely just you, Eric, because every time I go to my base, it's like safe. Like no one's attacking me.
No, and then I always had the freaking jellyfish pop up every single time, so that's why
Again,
I moved it. It's still looking over the lake, but I moved it. I was like,
You
I'm
guys
not
put
doing
us
this
in
every
hell,
time.
and you keep pretending like we're not getting attacked. But every time I spawn there, I'm attacked.
We are
instantly.
getting attacked.
It's on site.
It's like crazy because it's like you guys are getting attacked. I just go in and I keep like building my shit and no one touches me.
Ridiculous. Being gaslit, Eric, as we're being shot at by mutants. So, but I do want to transition to the community of Fallout 76, because obviously a game like this does not stick around for as long as it has, and you don't see people that are the level that they are without having a consistent community. And I got to say, especially in a time where you can dive into when you talk about games such as like just throwing out there like a Rust or some of these other consistently online games. I've talked in the past about my terrible experience with Ark, and that PvE community. Fallout 76's community is incredibly welcoming. And Jordan, I'm going to throw this to you first, because you and Joyanne had a situation where like a level like 800 guy came up and just gave you a whole bunch of stuff, which is something you just don't see. And obviously it helps that you can turn on a passive mode. And even if we weren't in a passive mode, I don't think we would really have a problem with people attacking low-level characters, because the community itself is just very happy to see new people joining the game because of the show. So talk about this, those interactions you've had with the other community members within this game.
Yeah, I'll be honest, like, I honestly didn't even realize I had passive mode off for a moment, so, like, knowing that people just didn't purposely attack me was, like, really, like, comforting, because it's, like, I'm still, like, a level 15 at the time, and all these people are, like, almost level 1,000, because this game has existed for so long, but yeah, like you mentioned, we ran into situations where older players, like, they just want to welcome you, and they're constantly looting. They are the level they are because they've done so many of these events and so many of the missions that they have these extra items, so they'll just, like, donate them to you. There's donation boxes across the map that you can access that people drop off food or ammo or other weapons, or how we had, and it's happened in multiple cases where people will come and see us and see that we're newer. They'll help us with a mission. Some of them will just tell us to, like, follow them to their camp. They'll, like, drop some items for us that we'll be able to use because they just had extras. And it was just really helpful because it's like we're still building up, but, like, they understand that we're building up too.
Yeah, Eric, that's something I remember when you jumped in for the first time, you had immediately went to the donations box and you pull stuff out of there that is incredibly helpful. So I think it's just really cool that there is, a gaming community where it's like, yeah, we're super happy that you're here. How can we help? We're going to do whatever we can to help you. and familiarize yourself with this game, no matter what your level of Fallout expertise is. I think that's a great positive when it comes to a game that's been around this long.
Yeah, 100%. And the game is a lot of fun with people, and I think that's ultimately what makes it so appealing today. Like, I'm definitely hearing a lot of people bringing up, like, that they're jumping into Fallout 4 after watching the TV series. I definitely think Fallout 76 is the way to go if you're friends with someone who loves the franchise, the gaming franchise. I think that's an easy way to get into it. And again, because the community is so welcoming, I think you get enough of the world and enough of what makes Fallout so great. You know, you still got the Pip-Boy, you still got the VAT system. So I think there's a lot of elements there that would be gentler for people to get into. And, you know, there's nothing crazy about the game for the most part. Like, the events are cool, but there's nothing like extremely difficult or challenging about the game. I think it's more just about having fun. So I think it's more of a casual experience for people to jump in for the first time with, again, a couple pals, couple friends.
Yeah, because I'm not going to play this by myself, and that was the whole thing with the other Fallout games is I think the one that I probably played the most was Fallout 3. I got the farthest in Fallout 3 than any of them. And again, I just eventually got a little tired of that gameplay loop. Eric, the Bethesda games have never really been my bag, and I've tried them multiple times, but that kind of game with maybe even too much freedom, which seems like a weird thing to complain about, but it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. But again, jumping into a game like this where you could, in theory, walk away from it for a while and then come back in, and it's totally different. It's not like a Fortnite where all of a sudden the meta is totally different and the loadouts and the weapon cache is totally different. So this is something you can kind of walk away from and jump right back into it. Because like if Fallout 4, if New Vegas, if Fallout 3, if those were multiplayer and I can go in and play those games with you guys now, I definitely do it. But you're right, 76 is a great casual experience, and I think it definitely is the way to go if you have other people that can guide you through the game that you have never played before. For those of you that have been thinking about making the jump after watching the show. But with any game such as this, and we're certainly praising the leaps and bounds the game has made in a 6-year time period, that always comes with its problems, especially with a game that is consistently online. So I'm just going to throw it out right now. I mean, the amount of crashes that a game has, a 6-year-old game at this point in its life cycle is pretty crazy. The recent example that I can think of is early on we ran into those issues, Eric, with Helldivers, but it's pretty much non-existent now. And obviously you play a lot more than I do, so let me know if you're still having that issue. But the fact that a game such as Pal World, which is new and a much smaller studio, and Fallout 76 have about the same amount of crashes probably shouldn't be happening at this point in its life cycle. So, Eric, what are some things that would maybe hinder your experience, that have hindered your experience, or would prevent you from continuing to come back to 76 that they maybe need to work on?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm not gonna play this game without people like Phil. If you guys tell me you're on and I'm not playing Helldivers, which I think I have been neglecting for just a bunch of stuff going on, just went to Disney, all that stuff, playing Baldur's Gate with Jordan and Stefan. I feel like
going to a Simple Plan concert, which
Yeah.
was obviously an intentional move.
It was very intentional. Also, they're great live. Just gonna mention it again. But I think that the experience I've had with Fallout 76 has been positive, but it doesn't really offer like much for me. Like what I'm looking to spend my time in a game. There's a lot to do, but I don't know if you guys will agree. Already, the events are kind of seeming a little one note. Like they're very just go do this at this location. Like it's I don't know. It's just not, you have stuff to do. How much fun it is without people, I don't know. So if you guys tell me to jump on for an event or you want to just chill, that's fine. But I'll find us, if we're not doing events, figuring out what do we do here at a certain point. And I think that definitely shows in the game that there's a lot to do, but also at times feels like there's not much to do. And I feel like that's a weird kind of balance that this game is still struggling to figure out in its identity.
And I think what it is, because Eric, Jordan, you and I have, and Joanne as well, we have a fun time in the game with a lot of downtime. Whereas comparatively speaking, when Eric is jumping into Helldivers, yes, there are, things to do within the base mission itself, but it is constantly go, go, go. Like, yes, there is downtime in between running into a swarm, running into a group, running into an objective, but it is, let's go to the next spot, let's go to the next spot. There is a consistent, obviously, overall world objective always going on within Helldivers, where within Fallout 76, like, yeah, there can be, there's a lot of fun in the mundane, but that is not for everybody. So what are some of the things within the game that you would like to see them improve, areas of, of opportunity for 76 as we continue to navigate through it?
I will say that, like, the crashes and the bugs it's just a classic Bethesda thing. I mean, Eric, you probably know, like, any Bethesda game is constantly going through these situations, but I feel like they should be past that by now, especially with how long it's been out. So that's definitely something they can improve on. Something that, Phil, you've especially experienced it too, is that, like, there's times where our guns just won't work and, like, register damage, which kind of just alters, like, how we play the game, because we're constantly getting attacked by a ghoul or a scorched, like, being. So it's like we're gonna die essentially, because our guns are just not working. I think that I do agree on about the missions and the events is that it does kind of get repetitive, and, like, there are some missions that are fun, like, that are very different. Like, you guys haven't seen it yet, but there is a spin that wheel mission where you spin a wheel and there's just, like, fun things. You get, like, really cool stuff and everyone plays it. Like, there's, like, different levels. It's like, I think it's, like, an easy difficulty, but, like, it's a fun thing. It's like a wild card, but, like, then there's the, like, clear and breach or event. Breach and clear, I think, is the one that, like, you're constantly seeing where you just clear an area and it's so repetitive. And then I realized the buggy thing too is, like, there's times where we can't even get the items that you get at the end of those events anymore because we've already done them. So they just continuously pop up for us, but there's no point in doing them again. So I think that's, like, what kind of ruins the playability for that too. And maybe also because we haven't seen Atlantic City, it just feels repetitive. But that's, like, what I'm seeing so far.
I just want everybody to know, for those of you that are not watching the video version of this episode, whenever you think that maybe Eric and I have any kind of inkling of being, these mature content creators, Eric and I lit up at the same time when we heard there was a spin that wheel.
Like, Jordan, we're 30 minutes into this. Lead with that. Say, hey guys, by the way.
It's literally so fun because, like, it tells each player to, like, walk up to the wheel and you, like, press a button and it's like a huge wheel that, like, spins and everyone stares at it, like, all the players.
What is the first thing we did every day in GTA 5? What is the first thing we went to? We went to the casino
to spin the wheel.
The signs have been there forever, Jordan. Come on now.
The spin the wheel.
Why didn't you text us immediately? Why didn't you text like, hey guys, you gotta get on. There's a wheel here.
The spin the wheel lore within the Wait For It podcast runs deep. So if there's no wheel in Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't want it.
Yeah, we're returning it. We're trading it in immediately.
And each wheel story gets, like, worse because, like, there's the IKEA wheel that I've been looking for like 2 years that I finally got, like, randomly. Like, it's wild.
One of our patrons, shout out to Briar, is gonna make us a wheel, which is awesome. So we're just gonna have so many, like, eventually our backgrounds are gonna be just wheels, actually, and we're not even gonna tell you what the episode's gonna be about. We're just gonna spin a wheel, and that's what we're gonna talk about.
I'll make a commitment. One of our, maybe not the first one, but one of our first official T-shirt designs that's not a just logo will be a wheel. It'll be spin
down.
That wheel.
It'll have all of our different episodes on it.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm starting to get some ideas. All right.
Yeah. So. Obviously, with any game that is consistently online, there are going to be its issues, but the core Fallout gameplay loop, I think, is there, and you guys can tell me differently if you don't believe that is the case, but I think it has quite a bit of longevity because, you're seeing games now that have these long life cycles, and obviously when you see the players that are in the game that are such high level that have been around for the longest time, I think one thing for me is, like, is the game still going to be compelling? One, because like you said, Eric, the events are very repetitive, but, like, Jordan will see people jump into these events and they have this power armor and they're one-shotting enemies. Like, is that still fun 30, 40 hours from now? And it's really easy to level up. Like, I think I'm in the mid to high 30s now. Jordan, I don't know if you've hit the 40s yet, but level 50 is when you can start wearing that power armor, and that's considered like the next game, the next part of the game is when you get above level 50. But like, is the game still going to be fun when I have those incredibly overpowered weapons and I'm just breezing through events? Like, what is keeping me around after I've gotten the base to where I want it to be, collected all the plans and all that stuff? And listen, we've barely touched the surface when it comes to story, side story, daily quests, and all that kind of stuff. But like, do you have any concern there, Jordan, that maybe it just won't hold your won't be able to hold your attention, once we do get those higher level items?
I think that is like a kind of a concern, but then again, I do see people who are at that high level that still play it. So I don't know like what's keeping them around. Maybe there's something that we just don't see yet because we're not that level. Maybe they're seeing like better missions, or there's like a better like things that they're fighting are at a higher difficulty, so it does still present that challenge. But I do agree that like if it doesn't really give us that challenge anymore, it still stays pretty stagnant. It will kind of lose our interest once we hit a certain point.
Eric, would you be more interested in like the base building aspect and this is something we actually talked about while we were playing, is if you could do, instead of individualized bases, I would love it if you could build a community or a neighborhood with your team and, kind of procedurally build that as you kind of go on, as opposed to having an individualized base. I think that would be more fun.
Oh yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, how much someone can tamper with that, I think, would be the only concern. But I think...
you mean how much you could tamper with it is what you're saying with the snarky grin on your face?
I'm just speaking out loud, Phil. I'm really just...
Could you imagine, like, it's just like, okay, here is our saloon. Here is our drugstore. Eric's like, I built a Dick's Sporting Goods.
That's about how it would go. And then I'd like steal your shop. So like I'd steal
something like
your
that.
shop. So
yeah.
I think that would be a cool idea. Yeah, I think it would make it more interesting if it was more community or even group based. I definitely think that would be interesting, but that's again, I don't think something that's gonna happen based off of the way Bethesda
Not
makes their
point,
games.
No.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. But they have a good loop, and I think the best thing that Fallout 76 can hope is that this is the biggest surge they're ever going to get, more than likely. I think that's safe to say. How much of that are they going to retain? And I think if they were pretty satisfied with the player base they had already, considering how old the game is, if they could just keep a little portion of the retaining people that want to stick around from this big surge, I think that's a win for the game and a win for the community. So I say have at it. But unless you guys hit me up, and again, if you don't hit me up in a while, this is going to come off because it does take a lot of space. It does take a lot of space on the console.
That is something we haven't even touched on that yet.
That is another negative, is that if I'm not going to play this game consistently, at some point, I am going to have to give up the space to something else.
Yeah, and we've talked about jumping into a Sea of Thieves here shortly, so that's going to take up quite a bit of space, and that is a very good point. And also, I will just say this, Jordan, as I alluded to earlier, you and I have spent money on this recently. The fact that a solo, like a non-PvE player world is locked behind a paywall is complete bullshit. And it's something that I know it's not unique to Bethesda, because other companies, especially like EA, will lock basic things that should be available just for free, when you're talking about buying. Listen, we didn't really buy Fallout 76, but the fact that they're charging you to play in a world with no other people in it and putting that behind a paywall is absolute nonsense. So, those are definitely some of those gaming practices that are just really shitty in modern day gaming. That's really unfortunate. But, is there anything else that you guys want to mention? I guess I'll bring up really quick, because the launch was so bad, you guys could probably imagine the Metascore for Fallout 76 is not very good. Sitting at a 52 for the Metacritic score, and then a 2.9 user score rating. I've always wondered that about Metacritic, why their scores are different. Like, one is a 1 to 100 and the other is a 1 to 10. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I would be interested to see what it was like now. I think on Steam it is still mixed as well, but it's definitely better than when it came out, when it was like all negative. So it's really tough to put a number on a game, that it like this as far as a score. Do you guys want to like throw one on there? I mean, with a game that's procedurally updating and one that we have only gotten to really scratch the surface on, like if I were to throw something out right now, it would probably be a cop-out because I'd give it a 3 with the possibility of it being within the moments when it's really, really fun, like an event that is unique and really good with your friends, it goes up to like a 4 and a 4.5 experience. But the game itself, I think because of all the issues, I couldn't give it more than a 3 out of 5. I don't know if you guys have any quarrels with that, but that's where I would land. Jordan, what do you think?
I agree with that, honestly. Like, the experience, especially with friends, is like much higher if you wanted to rate it off that. But the issues itself, I put it more at like a 3.5 just because like they have improved on it since the launch, so there's some effort there. But like we've mentioned, is like the size of the game, but like the little quality that it's really like putting out there, and the issues that you're still seeing, it's kind of useless to see how big that file size is when like there's not much that like is new, if you know what I mean. But I think it's like a 3.5. Maybe it'll improve like as people are still like getting into it and playing it and it's like still updating slightly, but I wouldn't put it any higher than that.
Yeah, what do you think, Eric?
I'd agree. A 3.5 seems right. And that's just simply because of the things that Jordan mentioned, the improvements, the community. We have had fun with it. I mean, this is a game, again, if it's on my console and you guys call me up to play it, I'll play it. I'll have a good time. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll get on. Like, I'll have a good time with it. And I think that's kind of the definition of where a 3.5 in media in general on this type of 5-star, rating that we're giving it. That's where it falls for movies and things like that. So if I apply that to gaming logic, I think a 3.5 makes sense, with the potential of it being a 4 if you really just love the lore of Fallout. Like, if that's just your jam, you might give it some extra brownie points. But yeah, no, this is not a perfect game. Far from it, even today. But I'm glad that it's getting some much deserved love after all these years. I did, again, feel very bad about that launch. So the fact that it had the resurgence, nothing but good things, the fact that this happened.
And also another gripe I have, the fact that there's no crossplay in 2024 on a multiplayer game is, again, another unacceptable thing. Like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to play with people on other consoles, on PC, whatever it is that you want. So something else that is a little frustrating for sure. The last question I'll ask the two of you, being the Fallout fans that you are, because obviously Elder Scrolls is in development. Who knows when we're going to get it? Elder Scrolls or GTA 6? Which one are we going to get first? Well, it'll be a race against time. Do you guys have any concern that because, Fallout 76, obviously it's a game that's consistently getting updates, do you guys have any concern that we won't see a single-player Fallout entry for a while? Jordan, I'll throw it to you first.
I think it's like as expected that we might not see a single-player Fallout in a while, because when I think about it, I think like the separation between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 was like about 10 years, I think. Maybe New Vegas might have been the last one before Fallout 4 that made that 10-year split. But I think it's expected at this point, is like if we do wait. But it would be competing against a lot of games that are in development that have already been announced, that are coming out. Like GTA 6 has been like long time running. Like everyone has been waiting for that, especially because that's also a multiplayer game that came out a while ago, that's constantly being updated, that's constantly having something new added to it. And then, I mean, I don't know where I feel like Skyrim would come first, like Elder Scrolls would come first if they do anything on that realm. But I think it's expected to wait a little bit on that side.
Yeah, Eric, Fallout 4 came out in 2015, so we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of that game. Like you said, it's gotten a new life because of the show. So, what is your level of want, and also, again, like I said, the your level of concern that you maybe won't see that single player Fallout experience that you guys really love?
Yeah, I mean, do I want it? Yes. I don't want it more than the next Elder Scrolls game. I am on the record. Skyrim is a top 3 game probably for me. It's right up there with BioShock. I think that Fallout has the better story, but Bethesda's gameplay, I think, shines best in Elder Scrolls, at least in Skyrim that I have played. I'm not going to say I've played the other Elder Scroll games, but I would want to see that. I would want to play that. I'm worried that development for any Fallout property will affect that project, because I don't think that they are interested in giving it back to Obsidian, I think is the company name that did New Vegas. I don't think they're wanting to venture outwards again for the Fallout franchise, which is a little bit of a disappointment because I think people have been clamoring for something a little different. And I think that's just not in the cards. But I know there is a push because of the popularity of the show. I think we might get something. And I just don't want a reskinned Fallout 4. And that's what I'm a little worried about, considering there was a new gen update to that game. I'm a little worried that that's what we would get in the next couple of years if they were to develop that game. So I'd rather them take their time, but it's been a while. So if they haven't been cooking something, I'm thinking we might get something half-baked, and I'm not thrilled about that.
Yeah, you've heard, people wanting New Vegas to be remastered, and we've seen it with the GTAs, with some of these other titles. Like, that usually just doesn't go very well, especially when you are remaster, remake, depending on which way they would go. That could be a conversation to be had. If you want to completely remake Fallout New Vegas, then sure, we can have a conversation. But if you're just going to remaster it, a la Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, we don't want it. I think that is the consensus.
There has been talks about them remaking Fallout 2, and doing that because prior to Fallout 3, it's my understanding Fallout 2, the original Fallout games were much different. Very much
they're like not point and click, but it's a top down,
basically
like an original GTA kind of viewpoint.
Yeah, or
totally different.
A much different experience from Helldivers 1 to Helldivers 2. Like, that's
exactly
the type of difference.
That's the perfect way to put it. Yep.
So would I be interested in that? Yeah, sure. Like, if you want to give us an excuse, if you don't want to do New Vegas, although people are begging for that, Fallout 2 underneath the current skin. I had heard a content creator talk about the possibility of that, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of interesting. I never got to play that game. So if the story is there, I've heard good things about it. Yeah, maybe. Why not? Let's have some fun there. But again, I think it would be the same thing we're doing now. I'd have a little bit of fun with it, and then I'd be like, all right, I think I'm done. And I think that if I went back into Fallout 4, I would feel that way. We went into Fallout 76, and we kind of feel that way. I just think it would inevitably be the same thing if it's just a reskin.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. As for now, I'm pretty committed to continuing to play this game because, again, I do have a lot of fun in the kind of quieter moments of Fallout 76. But the fact that we are talking about it, all this time later, one, because of the show and because of the work they put into it, you got to give credit where credit is due with Bethesda. But again, the game probably should have been that to begin with, and who knows what it would look like now if you had just gotten it right upon release. But Eric, Jordan, anything else you want to mention when it comes to this franchise, when it comes to the game that you'd like to discuss before we wrap it up? I think this was a great conversation about a game that obviously, even though all the three of us have different histories when it comes to it, obviously there's a lot of passion here and a lot of love for a game that, they put a lot of work into.
Yeah, no, nothing on my end. I really enjoyed playing this. I hope we get a little bit more life out of it together. I'm just excited I got to kind of check that off my bucket list, since I do enjoy this franchise so much. I can at least speak to it now, where when I recorded with Trey, we talked about Fallout as a series. I didn't really have much to offer on that front. So glad I got that now. What about you, Jordan?
I honestly agree. I'm excited to see how the Fallout series is going, especially with the introduction of the TV show on Prime. I love Fallout. I'm glad to be back into it, and it's kind of just revived my love for the franchise. So really excited about it.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to, hopefully, within the universe of anything. Again, the excellent TV show. At least we've gotten that, and we'll see what happens next. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. This was a lot of fun. And if you want to hear any other episodes that we discuss all of our favorite gaming franchises, make sure you check the Linktree link in the show notes. You'll find all the rest of our content. You also find our social media pages, such as the most important ones being Instagram, our growing Discord page, TikTok, as well as Twitch, which Jordan and I briefly spoke on before we started. That we stream every Thursday night. Jordan will be out of town this week, so I will be going it solo. I'll probably bring in one other person, and we'll do something casual like Fortnite or something like that. But every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, is where you can typically find Jordan and I over on our Twitch channel. It's been a whole lot of fun. And come hang out with us over there. If you want to support the show, you can do a couple of things. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave us those 5-star reviews, leave comments, let people know that you're enjoying the podcast. It helps immensely with the algorithm. You can also head on over to YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. That will be very helpful as well. And share content. Let us know that you're listening. Tag us. Let other people know that you're listening. All of that is incredibly helpful. But if you want to join a very special community that is continuing to grow, Eric will let you know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so all of the support options are appreciated, and of course we are building a lot of free community options for you. But if you want to go that extra mile, you can support us directly through our Buzzsprout site, or you can take those funds and move them to Patreon, where patrons like Stefan and Breyer are helping to support the show, and in return, they're getting access to things like behind the scenes and early access to episodes like this one. If you could go the extra mile, we truly appreciate it. We'd love to build our community even further on that platform. But the likes, the comments, the shares, the listens, and just the engagement in general is truly appreciated. We can't do this without you. We appreciate what you can support, and it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. But with that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino, and our guest, Jordan. Please don't forget that we release new episodes for the podcast every Wednesday with bonus content on platforms like TikTok, and all you got to do is wait for it.
So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.